and I started playing with her, then I put her back down. She got back onto the top of the sofa and started barking. Well, now I'm looking at her because she's not looking at me. She's looking into the kitchen. So I look to where her gaze is, and there's this man standing there. People love how I tell these stories. It's like there's this man standing there, but he's invisible. So then, because this is the kind of house that I run, I call my, at that time, husband up on the phone. It's like, hey, Jim, there's this man standing in our kitchen. Do you know who it is? And he goes, no. I go, okay, I was just checking. So I hang up the phone. He don't know who it is. And then like 2 days later, my son comes into my office, and he's in line. Like, he came in the door and was in line with the door, but it was like this little walkway. And he's talking to me, and he looks into the kitchen. He goes, who's that man standing in the kitchen? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you know who it is? And he goes, no. And then he stopped and looked at me, and he goes, I've been hanging around you entirely too long, and stomped off out of the room. That's my house.
That is. And we've got to
but
take
then
our
the guy
top of the hour break, though.
Okay.
But we will be back. I want to know who this was, so let's keep that thought. And guys, this is our 5-minute news break. Maybe there's a little good news. You can only hope. We will be back after this. Y'all come back.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from E-Trade. With all the jargon, investing can feel like a foreign language. E-Trade makes investing simple by providing personalized support and guidance in terms you can understand. They let you get started in the market with as little as $500 and then help you learn as you go. You don't need to be a pro to invest at E-Trade.
We always do.
For more information, visit etrade.com/NPR. E-Trade Securities, LLC.
Oh, and
Member
people are
SIPC.
hearing me through this break. Sorry,
Live
guys.
from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. Attorney General William Barr says he thinks U.S. intelligence agencies spied on the Trump campaign during the 2016 presidential race. As NPR's Ryan Lucas explains, Barr says he'll review whether the surveillance was done legally.
Barr told lawmakers he plans to review the genesis and the conduct of intelligence activities directed at the Trump campaign in 2016. Asked by Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen why he felt the need to do that, Barr said this.
I think spying did occur. Yes, I think spying did occur.
Well, let me...
The question is whether it was adequately predicated, and I'm not suggesting it wasn't adequately predicated.
Republicans in Congress have repeatedly accused the FBI and Justice Department of abusing their surveillance powers and targeting Trump associates. Barr says he believes spying on a U.S. political campaign would be a big deal, and he wants to ensure that strict rules governing how American intelligence agencies and law enforcement use their surveillance capabilities were not violated. Ryan Lucas, NPR News, Washington.
Survivors and family members of some of the victims of the 2018 school shooting in Parkland, Florida, are now suing the school board and the sheriff's office for negligence today. More than 24 family members and their survivors filing 22 lawsuits in state court against officials in Broward County where the shootings took place. Bob Kelly is the attorney for some of the victims and says absent a settlement, they had no choice.
All the lawyers in this room and all the clients in this room have been working for months now to try and reach a peaceful resolution of this without having to go to court. We are now being forced into court to get justice for our clients.
Former student remains jailed, charged with 17 counts of first-degree murder. The families opted to file suit after discovering the sheriff's office and school board were allegedly working behind the scenes to prevent a financial settlement from being approved by state legislatures. The federal government ran a deficit last month of nearly $147 billion. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the deficit is on track to top $1 trillion by the end of the fiscal year.
The March deficit figure released by the Treasury Department was down from February, but halfway through the fiscal year, the government's spilling more red ink than it was during the same period last year. Government revenues during the last 6 months were up by about $10 billion, but government spending during the period grew by more than $100 billion. With that imbalance, the deficit for the first half of the fiscal year exceeds $691 billion, a 15% increase from a year ago. The Trump administration is forecasting a deficit for the full fiscal year approaching $1.1 trillion. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Stocks moved higher today after some better-than-expected earnings reports. The Dow gained 6 points to 26,157. The Nasdaq closed up 54 points. The S&P 500 rose 10 points today. You're listening to NPR. A Boeing shareholder has filed a class-action lawsuit against the company on behalf of all investors who recently bought shares. NPR's Daniela Cheslow says the suit claims Boeing misled investors by maintaining its 737 MAX plane was safe to fly after the first of two deadly crashes.
Richard Seek says he bought 300 shares of Boeing in early March at an artificially high price. Each share cost Seeks more than $400. After the Ethiopian Airlines crash in late March, Boeing's stock price tumbled, although it has made a partial recovery. Attorney Reed Cathrine says Boeing continued to tell investors the 737 MAX planes were safe when it knew about potential hazards with its flight control system.
Had they known, the market price would have been lower like it is today.
Cathrine says he will likely represent thousands of investors. Boeing declined to comment. Even after the two crashes, its stock is up 13% so far this year. Daniela Cheslow, NPR News.
Astronomers have known about black holes for years, a spot in the cosmos so dense and deep that nothing can escape from it, not even light. But never before has anyone seen what one looks like until now. Scientists today releasing the first ever picture taken of a black hole, an image that shows a ring of light encircling a black spot some 55 million light years away from the Earth. The image, which slightly resembles a glowing eye, was taken from data gathered by 8 radio observatories around the world. Black holes were first theorized by Albert Einstein more than a century ago. Oil closed up 1% today to $64.61 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Speer, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am having a wonderful showtime tonight. I am joined by Dr. Rita Louise, who is just a wonderful person. She is soulhealer.com. That is her website, www.soulhealer.com. She has an Amazon page, which is in our chat at the top of the chat. She is the host of Just Energy Radio. She is a pretty awesome person. I have enjoyed talking to her and getting to know her over the last year or so. And Rita, welcome back. I guess I could open your mic this time since mine was open before. There you go.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being had. And we have touched on some pretty tense topics. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, I forget sometimes the soul healer side of you, which is pretty much a big deal. And mm-hmm. I appreciate that you brought that into play tonight. So I thank you.
Well, you're welcome. There has just been so much, so with this big shift that's happened, I've been going out and doing a lot more fairs and expos, since December, it's kind of like, no, it's time for you to get out of the house and, be amongst the people again. And, but it's just been interesting because it's kind of like this huge awakening is happening for so many people, that I just really felt that, in a major community like this, that information needs to get out there, that, it's not just them. And, and so if people around you are a little bit cranky, it's kind of like, yeah, because they're probably going through it too. And, maybe we'll be able to have compassion with boundaries with, other people.
Well, I think it is important. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't mind sharing when you brought that up. A, mm-hmm. You already knew that. But B, because I feel like part of what my life work is to help people recognize situations they may be in and to help. I don't mind saying, I'm having a struggle. I also don't mind saying, oh, my bad, I screwed that up. You know, those are two very important things. So it's not something that I was going to be embarrassed to share. But you know that about me anyway. So,
well,
I think it was beneficial.
Well, and I've been going through, that whole thing too. I mean, here I'll dish. I was in a not healthy relationship that I ended in December. And with the ending of that relationship and some other mitigating factors that talk about weird coincidence stuff, kind of ripped this Band-Aid took the lock off my anxiety closet and just took all of this crap and just stuck it in my face and said, oh yeah, but what about this? And it's like, you do this work for a long time and you think, you kind of got your stuff together.
No.
Only to find out that you really don't know anything. So now I'm writing a book on it. So see, you'll have to have me back when this book is done because it's not taking very long to write.
Awesome. I can't wait for it. And, I think that what you do really is pretty neat because you do all manner of things. Stepping out of Eden was just really unexpected. And then the A.T. Chronicles you're so diverse.
Well,
I mean, you know so much about so many different topics. You research well, you present well.
Thank you.
That's so refreshing.
Well, and I just do, and I hate saying it this way, but what Spirit tells me to do. It's like I'll get this inspiration and there'll be this energy and this momentum behind it. And that's what I follow. I mean, I feel blessed every day. Now, this is interesting coming out of my mouth. I feel blessed every day that I get to do my work. And that I have the opportunity, one, to work with clients, but doing that work also affords me the opportunity to go and do research, and go and do my work. I worked at a place when I first moved to Texas. I had been running my business and, just doing it full time in the Seattle area. And when I moved to Texas, I went and got a day job because I had just moved and, I didn't really have a client base, a lot of transition. It just seemed easier to go somewhere that they were going to pay me money every week and not have to worry, and not have to worry about it, and then, work with my clients at night and on weekend and just, schedule it that way. And so when it came to review time, they didn't give me an increase. And I looked at my boss. So there was the lady that I was put underneath who hated me. And then there was the owner because it wasn't a big company. And I quit. And he goes, but if you love what you do, the money doesn't matter. And I looked at him, I said, but I don't love what I do. So the money does matter. I go, but if I was doing my psychic work, hell, I've worked for like a penny an hour. Okay. Don't take that literally, anybody. But it feels that way, sometimes when you're putting 12 and 14 hours a day.
Right now.
But, I mean, I used to run a psychic fair. I used to do like direct mailing for the metaphysical community. I mean, I had my hands in all kinds of fires, at that point in time, working on developing a client base. And developing a reputation, writing articles, getting them published. I mean, so it does feel that way, when you're just making like not a great, I'll say salary, but you're putting in 12 and 14 hours a day, 6 and 7 days a week. But Absolutely. I still love what I do. So it's all good.
Well, that is 90% of the struggle is finding something that you do enjoy. And then the rest just kind of flows. It took me a long time. I was in my 50s. Well, 40s for the photography. But truly, I've been taking pictures all my life and then just